What's up, boopers? Now, a lot of people have been requesting it, so here it finally is. Welcome to my Advanced Ranger Guide. Now, to save time on the basics, I'll have a link to my spec in the info section below, and if you're unfamiliar with the Ranger class as a whole, you should check out my basic Ranger Guide first, but let's get started. We'll start with leveling. Rangers are a bit slow the first few levels. You can pull large groups, but your AoE is limited to charging wind and holding shift with your auto attack. You can insta-shoot charging wind with evasive shot as well, but these levels go by fast, and before you know it, you'll get Razor Wind from a quest at level 17, then at level 20, Explosive Evasive Shot. You'll want 1 point in Explosive Evasive to keep its mana cost down for leveling. Its damage actually scales off of your auto attack, so rank that up to make leveling go by faster. You'll also want to put a point in your passive, as mana regen is a big issue for rangers. Be sure to always stock up on mana pots. But you're pretty much AoE grinding using this skill forever, at least until around level 58-60ish, which we don't need to worry about yet on NA and EU. For bosses, your highest damage skills are Razor Wind and Ultimate Charging Wind. Ultimate Charging Wind gobbles mana compared to Razor Wind, but because Razor Wind is impractical in PvP, I recommend against putting points into it beyond rank 3. So before we get into PvP specifics, let's talk about animation cancels and how to use our skills. Starting with Blasting Gust, this skill has the ability to knock down if used off cooldown. Now a lot of rangers just spam it for mobility and quick damage, but Blasting Gust is a mana gobbler if it's not hitting anything. So for simpler mobility, animation canceling F with auto attacks is better. This is done by holding left mouse button, F, and then tapping your A or D keys. And if you watch the scroll lock video, you'll know you can camera lock yourself to use this technique to move forward and backward as well. In a similar fashion, we can do the same with Blasting Gust. It does more damage, of course, while moving, but it also consumes mana, not just stamina. Similarly, we can animation cancel Will of Wind to spray nearby enemies and reduce their armor, and animation cancel this as well with Ultimate Evasive Shot. A hotkey was added to make this easier to do on Korea, but I still prefer to simply hotkey Will of Wind to your hotbar and spam the hotkey while holding left mouse button and A or D strafe directions. However, in most PvP battles, you'll rarely want to cast Will of Wind more than once just to get the armor debuff, and then stop using it because Will of Wind eats a lot of mana. Lastly, your key animation cancel is Charging Wind Ultimate, aka Shotgun. After evasive shotting, you can press spacebar and unleash a ton of arrows. This is one of the deadliest skills in the game, but requires you to be relatively close to your targets. This is pretty much how you kill people in PvP, but getting close leaves you vulnerable, so you'll want to utilize your CC in small scale or rely on Wizard CC in large scale to queue your engages. Rangers are fairly squishy targets once they get caught, so you gotta be careful. You also want to make sure you always have enough stamina to anti-cancel out of the end of the animation of the shotgun skill, as it is relatively long. Now for small scale, without anyone seeing for you, you've got to do it yourself, done in two ways. One is Blasting Gust. If you shoot it off cooldown, it'll knock down, and it is possible to shoot it instantly out of Tearing Arrow. Simply hold S, E, and left mouse button to bypass Tearing Arrow's charging animation, then tap Q and left mouse button to shoot a Q instantly instead. With full attack speed, this knockdown can catch a lot of people off guard because of how fast you can shoot it. In a similar fashion, you can instant cast Penetrating Wind, which is one of the longest range attacks in the game, good for poking targets down from far away. Hold SE and left mouse button to insta-cast Tearing Wind, then shift and right mouse button to shoot a Penetrating Wind instantly instead. Now your last damage, Descending Current, is your long-range siege skill, good for softening up targets from a distance, and is one of the better siege skills of the game, especially its ultimate form. You can spam this on large groups of enemies that are encroaching towards you. Your second form of CC comes from Explosive Evasive. After you're done leveling, you'll want to rank it up to increase the CC range on it to bound targets. This basically roots them and prevents them from moving or turning, allowing you to quickly move around them and do damage. Note though that if you use Evasive Explosive on cooldown, like Blasting Gust, it will not CC. So a common mistake of rangers is to blow their CC skills early for damage or mobility and not the CC components. and they never utilize the actual CC parts of these two skills. This is usually fine if you outgear someone, or outlevel them, or outnumber them. Sadly, in these situations, how you play doesn't really matter. You can just dance around with Q like an idiot and then shotgun and win. No skill involved. But I'm not making this guide to teach you how to be a Zergy moron, so you ought to pay attention to the cooldowns of Blasting Gust and Evasive Explosive. If you can afford to get a few seconds without using one of these skills and keeping them on cooldown, do it to allow the skills cooldowns to clear up and you can utilize the CC components of them. Now, depending on the class you are facing, you'll need to probably spam one of them for mobility, so utilize the other for CC. For example, against Rangers and Wizards, Gust is important for mobility, so save Explosive Evasive cooldown to CC them if you can ever get close. And vice versa, for melee, you'll need to spam Explosive Evasive to make yourself hard to catch, as they out mobility you, or at least most of them do. So wait for opportunities to instacast Blasting Gust and knock them down. Next, let's talk about Rangers' defensive skills, Charging Kick and Pinpoint Gust, and Call from the Sky. Very often, melee targets will charge at you with their defensive skills down to initiate a CC chain on you. It is extremely important that you interrupt or avoid these, either by Explosive Evasive or Charging Kick. Hitting Charging Kick on a melee rushing at you will not only flinch, interrupt, and put on cooldown whatever skill they were about to use on you. If you take the flow skill, Pinpoint Gust, and your Q is off cooldown, you can follow up your flinch of Rushing Kick with a knockdown. This leaves you with an enemy down on the ground in front of you for 2 to 3 seconds, which is an easy shotgun kill, pretty much guaranteeing you will win the fight. Long range CC, however, is the biggest weakness of a ranger, such as a Sork or a Wizard or another ranger knocking you down from a distance. This is where Call from the Sky comes in. Sprinting forward, hitting left mouse button and then spacebar will launch you into the air, and while you're in the air you are very hard to hit and immune to some forms of CCs and knockdowns. So timing this around the cooldowns of certain classes' CCs is vital. You'll want to take note of the long-range CC skills of other classes and internalize their cooldowns in your head. Wizards Lightning, its stun is about a 7-second cooldown if they miss it. Rangers Blasting Gust is about 8 seconds. You got Sorks, Warriors, Valks, etc. so on. Call from the Sky spam until they waste their CC, then hit them with your instant knockdown and go in and shotgun their faces off. So a basic common combo to kill someone is to insta-shoot Q when it's not on cooldown for a knockdown. Now note that most decent players will have high resist and it won't work immediately, so keep dancing around until the knockdown lands properly. Then, use camera lock and anti-cancel to strafe to gap close to them wherever they are so that whatever distance you were at is gone, and then try to land as many shotguns as you can before they get back up. You can even combo an Explosive Evasive out of this to keep them CC'd even longer. Of course, this is small scale 1v1. Anytime there is more than one enemy, you want to avoid getting caught and going in as much as possible. Try to basically never stay still in medium to large scale PvP. Rely on allies like Wizards to land CC and do your high damage on targets from safe locations. But in the case of melee chasing you down in large scale or small scale, take note of the fact that Rangers are the fastest class in the game because of their passive. Simply press tab to put your weapon away and run. For Awakenings, you'll want mana on use for Explosive Evasive to make your PvE life easier. Try and get flat ranged AP on Charging Wind and Descending Current, and get a buff on evasive shots such as plus 10 attack speed or plus crit. This will mean the buff is up most of the time because of how often you usually cast evasive shot. But that's about it. If you're a high level geared ranger, you can get away with just shotgunning everyone. It's kind of the easy mode class that can win fights without even knowing how to play the game, but actually beating smart players takes quite a bit of finesse, and if other players know what they are doing and they are geared, rangers actually lean on the weaker side of 1v1s. To practice the combos, happy hunting, I am booping out. Boop.